I'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who'd done more for marriage than Maggie Gallagher. I call her the Maggie Thatcher of marriage. She can be thrown into any intellectual environment, any university, any social setting, anywhere, and argue and defend marriage, and really obliterate her opponents for one simple reason. She has truth on her side. Maggie's the head of the National Organization of Marriage. Talk to us about marriage.
Well, thank you. I kind of want to talk to the young man who asked, how do you stand up for marriage? Because this is the one issue, as many as the tough issues and standing up for life and the rest of the gospel.
Let me interrupt right here. I'm going to be prepared to go to some of you to ask a question of Maggie in just a moment, okay? Be thinking what you want to ask. One question's been asked, but other questions may be asked as well.
So in this poisonous environment where they try to make you ashamed and like you're doing something wrong to stand up for marriage, here's the first thing you need to do. You need to go deep inside and stand on the good that you're for, that we are all for. Every human society has recognized you need to bring together male and female to make the future happen. Opposite-sex unions, a union of husband and wife, deserve their special status because these are the only unions that can make new life and connect those children in love to a mother and father. The heart of the idea, the gay marriage idea, pardon me, Chuck Colson, for using the term, is that there's no difference between an opposite-sex couple and two men or two women in a union. That marriage, as a federal judge just ruled, has nothing to do with its great historic mission of bringing together the two great halves of humanity, male and female, so that we can have a next generation raised in love with a mother and father. It commits our government to an idea that is based on a lie about human nature, and it commits our government to take over, just as the government took over the definition of human life. Now the government is proposing to take over the definition of marriage, to change it from its own great historic mission, and to put it to a new task unknown. And I think that just as when I was your age, I was told there'd be no more pro-lifers left by the time I was 50 years old, which I am this year, because the trend curve, the next generation, they're all going to be pro-choice. Well, history has a way of proving the progressive myths wrong, right? So we need to stand for the truth about the good, stand in love, but do not let them make you afraid or ashamed to speak up for God's truth about marriage.
Thank you, Maggie. Awesome. I'm going to have you stay right here. Bishop Harry Jackson, join up here. And Maggie, just stay right here if you would. Bishop, come over here. I want you to talk to us. Bishop is the apostle of our city here in Washington, D.C. I've seen him in operation. He's not only a Harvard graduate like the pastor of this church who just prayed. You're a former NFL player, and you're even missing a game tonight to be here. Way to go. That's deep commitment. We're proud of you. And on top of that, you have the high impact ministry, but you have stood like a rock for truth and righteousness. Talk to us tonight, Bishop Jackson.
You're very kind, Jim. I want to thank Bishop Brown for opening his doors to us. Why fast for 40 days? I believe marriage in America is on life support. It's about to expire. More specifically, if you look at the black community, where we are is 41% of the young women in our community will never be married. I've got 2 young adult daughters, and I'm looking to have grandchildren before this thing is all over. But that won't happen unless something radical happens in our day. Think about it. Oprah Winfrey, wonderful, successful attorneys, folks who are business women all across this nation who happen to be African American will never be married if we don't turn things around. Marriage redefinition, Jim, is actually marriage destruction. It's that simple. And so we have got to do something. We've got to do something radical. Sounds like we've been beating up on the black community for a while, but that's not the case. Where the black community is, the Hispanic community is right behind them, and the mainstream white community, all of us are going down the same tubes. And it's worth fasting. 2 things we got to do. We got to intervene and we've got to protect. We've got to make sure that marriages are strengthened from the inside out. Things like Chuck Stetson was talking about, Marriage Week, are absolutely important if we want to see marriage restored and strengthened. But if we let the forces, I'm going to say something very radical, if we let the forces of humanism destroy the institution of marriage. Remember, marriage redefinition is marriage destruction. Then we will find a total obliteration of our culture. The church can win. For the last 16 months of my life, I've been involved, Jim, in fighting for marriage in this city. Spent time away from my church, as you did in California. We've gone through crushing defeats temporarily with the city council and other places. But we're going to take our case all the way to the Supreme Court. Amen.